Genesis 26. Just barely. We almost finished 26. We got two verses. So as we walk through the story with Abimelech, with the wells, with the water, right? Isaac got kicked out of the land. There was quarreling, and then water, and then Abimelech coming back, say, "Hey, right? I want to be next to your God. There's something different about your God, and I want to be near that." And then there's this beautiful scene of covenant where all of the people, not just the chosen or the unchosen, but all of the nations experience blessing through what went on there. And I think that's real key to remember as we move into the next. And when that happened, the picture that we were given was abundance, it was feasting, it was paradise, right? Because that's what it all amounted to when the unity come. And we talked about the Psalm 33 of what happens when the nations come together, and just the abundance that came from that. So just keep that in the back of your mind as we move forward into this beautiful picture of peace and unity, and then we're right back into the same old Genesis stuff we've been walking through. So let's just get started. Let's finish up 26. Someone read 34 and 35.
When Esau was 40 years old, he took Judith, the daughter of Beeri, the Hittite, to be his wife, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah.
This seems like a weird, why is this here? This is odd. It's strange. So a little bit of genealogy, right? Of how things, right? Genesis loves the author here loves those. Maybe a little foreshadowing. Hittites, right? Is that Shem's line? That's not the line of Abraham. That's the line of Ham. And if we remember, Ham was the one that's Canaan. That was the cursed line. And so that's the Hittites. Esau, obviously from the line of Shem, from Abraham's line. We just read about peace. Is this a big happy family now? No. Yeah, exactly. There's some grief going on here. Mine says source of grief. What was yours again, Gretchen?
They made life bitter.
Yeah. So the more actual Hebrew was bitterness of spirit. So I think that version was pretty spot on with there's a lot of bitterness going on here with Isaac and Rebekah. And so we'll try to, just from Isaac and Rebekah's viewpoint, how do you think they felt about Esau going outside of Shin's line to find a wife, and instead choosing it in what it is? It's a daughter of Ishmael. How do you think that's not looked on real kindly from Isaac and Rebekah? Sometimes I read these things, and from my cultural upbringing, my conceptions, sometimes this can be a little hard to wrap my head around, right? When we talk about marrying outside of the clan, or I don't personally hold any beliefs that a person needs to marry someone with a matching skin tone, or a matching, or that they have the same ethnicity, right? It's just not something I was raised with, that kind of thinking. But as I think about it, if I was raised 100 years ago, this probably wouldn't be that odd to me, right? Because there was those kind of thinking was a little more prevalent. But we have to kind of put ourselves into this cultural in where they're at, and their thoughts. And this little passage is interesting. because it's kind of bringing some of those things to light in how they felt. Not only that, but how many wives did he take? That's never a problem, is it? That's never a problem. Like that always works out great in the biblical story, right? Just one big happy family. The bigger, the better, right?
Not only that, but Hittites were not very enemy, basically.
Right.
The promise of Abraham was this land,
Right.
and so there's future trouble here.
Yeah. We can see there's future trouble, but I want to kind of lean into this just a little bit. We talked about the Eden ideal, which was Genesis 2:24. Man leaves father and mother and becomes united with his wives. Was that the the three shall become one? That wasn't the promise. That wasn't the blessing. No, the two married. The man will leave his mother and father and be united with his wife, and the two shall become one. That's the Eden blessing. Who was anyone remember the first polygamist? He was a real fun guy, huh? It was Lamech from Cain's line, and he was a real fun guy. But he took two wives. And the second polygamist we read about was actually Abraham. He took a second wife. How'd that work out? All right, so now here's number 3. Esau, third time's a charm, right? No. So Esau is this third. And already, before we're even getting into, he was a baby last time he was a young man last time we talked about him. Now he's 40. And he's almost painted as this kind of nefarious figure, even before we start. And we might already be kind of rooting against him. Like he's causing grief. He took 2 wives. He's a polygamist. And then we have to ask ourselves, well, how many wives did the chosen Jacob take? He took 2 and he added 2. He took 4. Rachel and Leah, and then he has and then their maidservants. So if the nefarious one Esau is taking 2, the chosen's taking 4. And so we can already see, okay, well, maybe right. Deception invites deception, doesn't it? It sure does. And then the others is kind of on him.
Well, it's a competition.
It's competition, and that's what it breeds every time. That's it. That's it. That's it. I'm reading through 1 Samuel right now in Hannah and Peninnah, and we see that competition, that struggle, that strife, the jealousy, the envy, all the things that come when we're trying to do something that's clearly outside of God's plan. And that's what that invites every single time. The Bible paints it in these very negative ways over and over again. And these stories really do. They put to right front and center for us the abuse, the neglect, the objectification of these women have to endure at the hands of these men that are accumulating wives. And all it continually exposes all the chaos that it brings. And just a thought before we kind of move on from this. It took me a while after first reading the Bible and trying to understand what's happening and how the Bible works to understand this. Is just because something is in the Bible doesn't mean it's God's will. And we have to understand that. That has to be just kind of rooted in us, because the Bible is full of these cautionary tales that tell us what not to do. It's like these polygamous groups that believe they are within God's will because they read about polygamy in the Bible, right? Oh, it's in the Bible. It must be good. I'm like, have you read it? Go back and read that again. Go ahead, Drew.
As parents, our parents, like when they raise us, they give us good advice because they're older and they can experience good things. But then when you don't and you do things like marry somebody that they don't,
right?
fits them, then later in life, then you're always like butting heads. And it's just gonna be.
Yeah, there's tension there. Yeah.
Well, that is, like, this is talking, kind of like about their parents, not, getting along with your family.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. And this doesn't just happen with polygamy. Many religious groups have taken all sorts of things and adopted them as practices because it's in the Bible, so it must be good. And as we read and discover, just because it's in the Bible, like as often as it is not, it's telling us what not to do. If you read the story of David and Bathsheba and think, yeah, I should go try that, like, probably don't. I'm just gonna say that. It's telling us things not to do.
When you talk about religions, they're taking a piece.
Correct.
They're not taking the pieces
Correct.
before, and they're not taking
Correct.
the pieces after it.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it's not gonna last.
Absolutely. And that's a big point for our denomination, is that we believe that we call it the plenary view of Scripture, is that you can never take one piece without taking it within the whole. And because you can take little pieces here and there and not get the true sense, because if it's true somewhere and not true others, then we have to start asking ourselves, what's the big picture, and how does that all fit? So yeah, great point here. One more side note before we move on. Are the Hittites inherently bad, evil people? They're not. Okay, so we have to just kind of remember that, because we read this, they're those Hittites. They are the Hittites are the one that sold Abraham the only piece of land he owns. He gave and they tried to give it to him for free, right? The cave to bury Sarah, and in that story, they're very peaceful. They see Abraham, and they're the ones that are trying to give him this plot of land. And so really our experience with the Hittites so far in the story has been a positive one. Now they get, as we move forward, they get a little worse. But so far in the narrative, the Hittites have been pretty solid. I'm always fascinated by names too. We talk about this a lot, but just the names. What do you notice about the name of this first Hittite?
A lot like Beersheba.
That's the Judith. Judith is the female version of Judah. It means Jewish woman. Like the Hittite is named a Jewish woman. Like, I don't even know what to make of that. Like, I'm sure there's some significance there that I'm not sure, but like, yeah. So Judah hasn't been born yet, but it's basically the same name. Yeah. Abraham was told he'd be a father of many nations, right? Not just one. He's going to be the father of many nations, and this, and so we see all these different nations. And as Esau will move forward with these wives, that'll be another nation, right? The Edomites will come from this line, and this is not a surprise to God. So I don't know that we're necessarily meant to adopt the feelings of Isaac and Rebekah here, the more I've reflected on this. So as we think about this, a descendant of Ham and a descendant of Shem coming together, wasn't that exactly what we celebrated last week? A descendant of Ham, Abimelech, and a descendant of Shem, right? Isaac, coming together in unity, and it was all high fives and a party, right? So moving forward, this gets real complex as we move forward. As you get to Numbers and Joshua, there's these commands to not marry the neighbors, to do not mix. But at this time, there is no such command in place. But even that, just think about the Canaanites, right? Do not marry them. Do not mix with them. And then we read about a sex worker in Joshua named Rahab, and she marries into the family. Are they lamenting that? No, it's celebrated in the Bible, isn't it? And then the next generation, there's this Moabitess. She's part of the people you don't associate with, and she marries into the family. Any negativity there? No. What's the difference though with them? With both of those?
They worship God.
They worshiped God. They didn't try to bring their own beliefs and change and get people to move away from God. The difference was they see God, and just like Abimelech, they said, you know what? There's something different. We want to be a part of that. And when that happens, it's a celebration, not lament. And so these stories are complicated. They're complex. There's not like you should never marry outside the line. And then we read 2 stories back to back where they do, and it's celebrated. So just to say all that we got to kind of read these passages for what they are, and don't try to import our own cultures and customs into them. Because God works with Canaanites, he works with Moabites, he works with Hittites, he works with Philistines, Abimelech, and the king in 1 Samuel. Like, we talk about this a lot, but right, those good guys and those bad guys seem to get those lines get blurred pretty easily. But we can already see these family rivalries are building up, and now we know that the families were this family, Isaac and Rebekah and these boys, was already divided, right? We saw that in verse 28 of the last chapter. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob, right? So there was already this tension. There's already this division within the family. And now they're escalating. And as we get into this next passage, we're going to spend 2, maybe 3 weeks on this next passage, just because there's a lot to break down. But we have to ask ourselves, why is Rebekah going to do what she's fixing to do? Because she seems to be the one that kind of instigates a lot of this. And I just think all of these things are weighing on her decisions and her actions that we've talked about. God has a plan. God has a plan. But there are these human counter plans, and then there's deception, and then there's more counter plans, and then one counter plan dictates another counter plan, and before we know it, this web is so tangled that it's going to need a miracle to get sorted out. But as we move into this and read this next story about the birthright or the blessing. I think, like Sarah thought, she probably thinks she's doing the right thing, right? Isn't Jacob the chosen one?
Yeah.
And maybe I need to act on God's behalf and make sure that my son, my favorite, is being elevated to the position he chooses, because that's what God told me he was special. So now I need to act. And I think there's a lot of that going on here.
I think too that the serpent isn't God. He's always in there asking questions. Are you sure this is what God wants?
Done talking.
Hear the conversation, but you know it's there.
I'm glad you're picking up on that, because that's real key for our conversation today, because those voices are still there, right? They haven't gone anywhere. We've heard that in the melody over and over and over again. I decided to take the whole pass. I think let's do 1 through 18. Let's divide this up into a couple. If someone would read 1 through, let's go 9, and someone read 10 through 18. Okay.
When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." Here I am, he answered. Isaac said, I am now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your equipment, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die. Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die. Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, so I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it.
And take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you his blessing before he dies. Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, that my brother Esau is a hairy man, and while I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on my father, on myself, rather than a blessing. His mother said to him, My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. I want to be your friend. So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son, Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with goat skins. Then she handed to her son, Jacob, the tasty food and the bread she had made. He went to his father and said, My father. Yes, my son, he answered. Who is it?
All right. What a story. And it gets better. Like this thing just keeps getting better. The more we get into this, it's going to get better and better and better.
You don't need to watch soap opera.
Right. Who needs a soap opera when you have Genesis, right? Just read some of this. So Isaac is old, his eyes are failing. There's probably a connection here to eyes and seeing, as I understand it, but he understands that his days are running short, right? Time is running short. Things are getting towards the end, and he believes now is the time to pass on the Eden blessing that's been poured onto him. And he asks for a tasty meal. What's Isaac still thinking with?
His stomach.
His stomach. What does that have to do with the giving a blessing? Right? There's nothing in the culture and how this works that I've read where it's like, hey, you have to feed me first before I give you my blessing. Right? So he's still thinking with his stomach, which I can understand. Right?
Esther did that too.
Yeah.
Fed the king and
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think Dad just likes to eat, man. Right, exactly. So here, go hunt, go kill, go bring me, and then I will bless you. Is this a private conversation? No, I see Rebecca like on the cup on the door, right? Yeah. What does she think about this plan? Her plan is better, right? Exactly. So plans and counter plans. And the counter plan is to deceive who? This is important. Who is she deceiving? Esau? Isaac. Her husband. Now, right, this harms Esau in the process, right? It's at Esau's expense, but that's not the deception. The deception is for her husband. Listen, I've heard this taught, and I cringed the whole time I heard this, that this was God's will, because in the end, God's chosen received the blessing. Like this, huh? God can use whatever, right? Right. And when I heard that, every part of me just cringed. Because if you think that you have to operate in ways clearly outside of God's instruction to bring about God's purpose, I believe you're heavily misguided. If you think that sinning will bring about God's kingdom, then you're playing for the wrong team.
It makes you wonder if Rebecca would have gone to God like she did when she was pregnant.
Yeah.
What do I do, God?
Yeah.
It looks like Esau's gonna get the blessing.
Mm-hmm.
What could have changed?
Yes. Oh, that's a great point. I didn't even think of that. That's so important because she did talk to God, and God has spoke directly to her. And here she's not seeking His voice, and that's real important. But just think about how many catastrophic tragedies have been committed within this ideology. That the ends justify the means. We can do awful things to each other as long as we believe it's for a good cause. How dangerous is that? Still goes on today. Still dangerous. Still happens. This whole idea that the ends justify whatever means we feel is necessary. And, sometimes God's not doing it, so we just got to do it. Right? Yeah, help him out.
He says something that I caught my ear too. When, Jacob says to his mother, what if he, doesn't think it's me? She says, let the curse fall on me. So would you say that if you thought you were doing
You're right.
the right
Yeah,
thing?
not the blessing. She says, I will be the substitute. No, that's key. Yeah, right. She doesn't feel like this is a good thing either. Let the curse fall on me. No, that's a great observation. And so the question I have is, do I really believe that God's ultimate purposes were predicated on a single decision of Isaac, or his plans would have been completely derailed if Esau would have got the blessing? Would God have to start over? No. God has a plan. He'll work it out. And yet, yeah, he can use this deception, and this plan is awful, just plain and simple. And he'll still use this. He could have used whatever.
But it carries on.
That's right. Just keeps on going. So I love modern translations because they help put these words into ways that are easier for us to understand, but sometimes we miss a little something. I'd read a translation on this from Tim Mackey where he has a more of a literal translation. It's a little clunky, but it brings out some words that I think will jump out to us. And I want to read this translation. And as I do, just see what jumps out to you as I read this story again, with more of the Hebrew coming to the forefront. In verse 1, and you can follow along in yours. It says, and it came about when Yitzchak, that's Isaac, was old, and his eyes became weak, and he called Esau his son, his big one. And he said to him, my son, and he said to him, look, it's me. And he said, look, I am old. I do not know the day of my death. And now please lift up your tools and your quiver and your bow and go out in the field and hunt for me hunted game and make for me tasty things just as I love. And bring it to me so I may eat, on account of which my being can bless you before I die. Now Rivkah, that's Rebecca. Now Rivkah was listening, and Yitzchak spoke to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt hunted game to bring. But Rivkah said to Yaakov, her son, saying, look, I have listened to your father speaking to Esau, your brother, saying, bring to me hunted game and make for me tasty things, so I can eat and so I can bless you before Yahweh before my death. So now, my son, listen to my voice, to what I am commanding you. Please go to the flock and take for me there 2 kids of goats and good ones, and I will make them as tasty things for your father, just as he loves, and you will bring them to your father, and he will eat. on account of which he will bless you before his death. And Yaakov said to Rivkah, his mother, look, Esau, my brother, is a man of hair, and I am a man of smoothness. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I will be a deceiver in his eyes, and I will bring upon myself a curse and not a blessing. And his mother said to him, may your curse be upon me, my son. However, listen to my voice and go and take for me. And he went and he took. And he brought to his mother, and his mother made tasty things, just as his father loved. And Rivkah took the clothes of her son, the bigger one, the desirable ones that were with her in the house, and she clothed Yaakov, her son, the smaller one. And the skins of the kids' goats she clothed upon his hands, and upon the smoothness of his neck. Man, the Bible's weird. The smoothness of his neck, and she gave the tasty things to the bread, and the bread which she had made into the hand of Yaakov her son, and he went to his father. Any words that we're picking up on there as we kind of get into that Hebrew?
Deception and taking.
Just taking? Go take?
Desire.
Desirable? Like, there is no reason that clothes should be like, why those are being described as desirable. Same word from the garden, right? This is all Genesis 3 language. What's the first thing she said? Listen to whose voice? My voice. She says it twice, Matilda. Listen to my voice. Listen to my voice. Oh, okay.
And the part that really got me is he's roping him. She's putting the fur and everything on him so that even though he can't see him, if he feels his hand, he'll feel what would feel like Esau instead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Because-
buy that would feel.
Oh,
like
it's
it.
like it.
Yeah, who knows? Like,
I think that's what it looked like
it's
to me.
the smell, right? It smells like a dead animal.
The fact that Isaac can't tell the difference between hunted game and
Right.
seems kind of odd.
You know, the whole story is kind of weird, but
The voice is not different.
well, that's he. Well, in the next passage, he says I hear the voice of Jacob, but I smell Esau. So you know he's yeah. So there's something in him that says this isn't right. He is. He's getting up there. Right. Right.
More out of it.
So the story really paints Rebecca as the Eve, right? She's taking, but it also is painting her as the snake. And this story, who in the Eden story, right? Adam is the one who's given something. So now Jacob's taking that role of Adam. But then as we move forward, Jacob's going to take on the role of Eve and also as the deceiver. He will become the deceiver. And it's all through this plan that was hatched. And the smoothness of the deceiver, which will bring the curse rather than the blessing, right? And
Drop the blessing. They both wore the curse.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
He gets deceived and she never gets deceived.
Yeah. She has to send him to exile to protect him. Plans and counterplans, exiles. You think God could have probably come up with a better way here? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I could have worked within this, and now just trust me. And I, that listen to my voice. That when I kind of read that in the Hebrew, it rang clear, so true. Right? Whose voice was he listening to, and now whose voice is Jacob listening to? Even though you think this will bring blessing, you have a dad that wants to wants what before he gives up the eating blessing? He wants a full stomach, right? I need to take and eat first, then I will give the blessing. And then as we read this, we can read these stories, and as we go on, it just seems these same themes just keep getting repeated. It feels so repetitive, and you're like, man, if I put this in, I don't know if anyone uses like Grammarly or a grammar checker. If you put it through that, like you'd get dinged for clarity and conciseness. It's like, why do you keep repeating this stuff? But once we start hearing these themes in the melody, we start hearing these patterns that just keep getting thrown at us. Listen to my voice, not just once, but twice, right? The go and take. It said that, I don't know how many times in this passage, go and take, right? And it's just that we've heard that before. And every time someone listens to someone else's voice and goes and takes, chaos reigns. Chaos will certainly ensue after that. And we can start to see and appreciate what the author is doing here. It really is brilliant. It's truly brilliant piece of writing. In all of it's, because it's all being rooted in Genesis 1, 2, and 3. As it's just bringing this that I don't know, I was going to say round 2, 3, 4, I don't know how many times round 5 or 6 we're on now of the Genesis 3 theme being replayed, and it just continues to happen.
But these stories tell us, if you're trying to deceive in your own life, you can correct yourself in the middle of it.
Yes.
It may cause you hurt and stuff like that and embarrassment, but still, you corrected yourself.
Yeah.
Then you just learn by these stories and apply them to your life. That's just kind of like lessons.
It's a great point, Drew, because, just could Adam have said no in the garden? Could Jacob have said no here? Especially when she says, let your curse fall on me. I don't want my mom to be cursed. Like, how about we just don't? He could have said no. He's 40 years old. It's not like that's a teenager. Like this dude's a grown man.
He knows it's wrong.
He knows it's wrong. He knows it's wrong the whole time, Louis. He knows it's wrong. Like, my father's going to know. He'll know I'm the deceiver.
Well, when several generations later, Jesus says, the sheep know my voice.
That's it.
The sheep know the shepherd's voice.
That's good.
They hadn't learned God's
They hadn't learned God's voice. Rebecca, who has already talked to God, lost sight of his voice. Like, other stuff is now clouded in, right? The plans and counter plans, and what voice she's listening to. As we digest all of this, let me ask you this: Did Isaac take more than one wife? Just one, right? Good for him. High five. He's done a great job. He only took one wife. But did you know that you can observe the letter of the law without honoring its purpose? The whole Sermon on the Mount on our Wednesday night study is exactly, Jesus is hitting on those themes and those tones. Hey, you might think you're honoring the letter of the law, but you're missing the point. So let me ask you this as we wind down here. As with this meditation we had on Genesis 2 about man leaving his parents and uniting with his wife as one. Are these two united as one? They're not. They're not. So yeah, he only had one wife, but they are so far apart here, right? Like that you have like zero qualms about just flat out lying to your husband and to just deceit on a whole new level. What does that say about you being one? I think that speaks to us too. Like, hey, we could get real deep about just marriage today, about being united, about being moving forth in one purpose, and how much chaos in our world reigns today. because of people operating on two different wavelengths in two different ways in with two different agendas and how much harm that causes. Yeah, the two are clearly not in one spirit here. There's the plans, there's the counter plans, there's the deceptions, and
It seems to me the way mine's worded when Isaac asks Esau to remove for him.
yes,
So when he says, bring it to me so that I might eat, that my soul may bless you before I die, it's almost like he's trying to make himself feel comfortable blessing Isaac. So I can't help but wonder if God's plan would have involved that somehow, that Isaac would have realized that he can't bless Esau. Sorry.
sure, I don't know, yeah, could, yeah, like I just wonder, like to that point, like what if Isaac would have just blessed Esau instead of this?
It wouldn't matter.
Huh?
It wouldn't
It
matter.
wouldn't have mattered, and it might have saved a bunch of grief. Not that it's his fault that he was deceived. Like I don't want to, like that happens too. Oh, if he would have just then.
It wouldn't have mattered. Jacob would have still been God's blessing.
That's it.
Would have still happened.
Yeah. Jacob was the chosen.
God places his blessing, not Isaac.
That's right. That's right. God didn't need Isaac's blessing. God's perfectly capable of blessing who he wants to bless.
It didn't hurt them either, but they still.
He doesn't curse him. I don't know if we'll get that next week or the week after, but it's not a curse, but it's certainly not good. As we finish this story out, Esau is going to say, at least give me something, and he gets something. I don't know. He probably would have been better off without that. But we're gonna spend a lot of time on that. Is any of this drawing this family together? No. It's going to tell us at the end of this that Esau is going to hold a grudge, and he's just biding his time for Isaac to die so he can kill his brother. Twins, one ready to murder his other. Have we heard this before?
Yeah.
I feel like we've read about this somewhere. This is going to truly need a miracle, and God will step in here at some point that we're going to see. But will this be the last time Isaac or Jacob deceives anyone? No. He learned it well, right? He's getting better and better, right? Mom and Dad taught him real well. Dad's not afraid to, lie to a whole nation. Mom tells me to deceive my dad, right? It's just what we do. Just what we do. At some point, and I love that sentiment, that at some point anyone could have stopped this. That you know what, this is not right. You know what, we're on a bad track. You know what, we need to reset and regroup and get back to wholeness. And all throughout the story, nobody does. Nobody does. And it tears this family apart. Whose voice were they listening to?
Satan.
Yes, to all of that. Yeah, that voice of the snake, right, becomes my voice. Because if that's what I'm listening to, that's the voice that comes out of me. And we start listening to ourselves, and then chaos reigns. So, Genesis is fun. Just like, I mean, I always think, man, will these people ever learn? And then you're like, oh, did I ever learn?
Bring out things with my life.
Yes.
I started to,
Yes.
and then you stop and think about it, then you gotta go back to somebody and tell them, but then they didn't even realize what was going on. But we wouldn't have had to do it on their own, do that, to make it right.
Right.
You know.
That's it. That's it. It invites us to think about whose voice we're listening to and how are we operating and are we doing things the right way? And not our own way. So let's wrap up there for today. Lord God, we thank you for your word. We thank you that these lessons, Lord, I often wonder why these lessons are so repetitive, Lord, and then you remind me of why they need to be so repetitive. Lord, because we keep needing to listen. We keep need to refocus on your voice, to tune in to your voice, that's the only voice that we hear, Lord. And I just pray that you continue to speak to us, and that as you speak, we continue to hone in, to camp out, to dwell, to tabernacle within your voice, Lord God, that we only hear you. And that those times when we get off track and those times when we're heading down a path, Lord, I pray that your spirit would just consume us and convict us, and that we would be willing to listen, to say, you know what, this is not the right path and we need to correct. We need to get back to where we need to go. We need to be the ones that say, Lord, we need to change. And so, Lord, I just pray for that. Lord, just give that spirit to each and every person in here, and may we dwell in you wholly and always. Lord, we thank you. We love you. Amen.
I think only half